I have looked up a cheesy science joke. So, Charles, how do astronomers organize a party?
That's a good question there. How do astronomers organize a party?
They plan it.
But I'm ching.
There we go. All right, sir. Okay, so we are talking about Fallout and adaptations in general, whether it's video games, novels, anything under the sun, comics, what have you. What makes a good adaptation? What doesn't? And Charles, so you finished the Fallout series, right?
Oh yes, I finished the Fallout the series there, and I'm a lifetime Fallout fan there. I've even played the originals.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm a big fan as well. I've played the hell out of the first one, New Vegas. Oddly enough, I'm doing my first actual, hopefully complete playthrough of Fallout 2 right now. I'm really hooked. I was up till 3 a.m. last night after we watched episodes 4 and 5 of Fallout last night, my wife and I. And I've just been having a blast with it so far. I did have some thoughts. We're gonna try not to be spoilerish in this podcast when we're talking about Fallout, the series. For those who, like me, are only halfway through the series, but from my perspective, getting to where I am on episode 5, I felt like the first 3 episodes that were directed by Jonathan Nolan were a lot slower, and like I had issues with the pacing. Like I wasn't loving the show that much, but I was digging the characters. I thought Maximus and his portrayal was a little weird, but I was like, okay, let's see where we're going with this here. But in episode 4, which is weird because like some people thought that episode 4 was the weakest link. I actually thought episode 4 was the best episode of the first 4, and then episode 5 was paced really well too. Different directors on those two, I believe. But I want to ask you, in this new age where video game adaptations and comic book adaptations, so to speak, aren't, as maligned as they used to be. We've had The Last of Us, which I have not seen, unfortunately, because I never played the games. But you've got Sonic the Hedgehog that fans love. Let's see what else off the top of my head. There seem to be a lot of good adaptations right now. So I want to ask you what you think as a big Fallout fan. What is the recipe for success that studios should be looking at right now, and writers and artists too?
There's an interesting perspective on the thing. I definitely did watch and enjoy The Last of Us from beginning to end there, and that is a pretty faithful adaptation there. But I don't think fidelity to the source material is necessarily the silver bullet so many fans are gone, because the thing about video games is there are video games that are absolute garbage as well as video games that are masterful works of art there, and adapting something like Fallout, the issue was creating the story that would properly evoke its world, but it's not the story that most people come to Fallout for there. I mean, if they had just done, you leave the vault to find Liam Neeson and find out, there's 100,000 things to do along the way, you're not going to have nearly as good a story as you had here, even though that actually is pretty similar in some respects to the first couple of episodes.
Right. I thought in the first few episodes, the quote that stood out to me was from the Ghoul, who is a fantastic character. Thou shalt get sidetracked by bullshit every goddamn time. Or something like that.
100%. Oh, yes, 100% accurate.
I'm like, that pretty much sums up every one of my playthroughs. So far in Fallout 2, like, I'm playing a lower intelligence, charisma 5 character, and that's, if you don't know anything about Fallout 2, that's the hard mode. Usually characters in that game have a easier time with the events and whatnot if they have high intelligence, high charisma. But I decided, I want to be a dumb himbo, and like Bolin from Legend of Korra or something like that.
Oh yeah, Fallout encourages you to go completely ridiculous, especially Fallout 2, which is the one that introduced it there. I think I played for Fallout 2. My character somehow ended up going from being the chosen one of my tribe to save it to being an Elvis impersonating porn star kung fu master. I'm not even joking here. He was an unarmed brawl, learned the secrets of the martial arts in San Francisco, and did in fact dress as Elvis.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, no, yeah, the village elder in Fallout 2 or like the medicine man, he like connects to you and reminds you that you're supposed to be fighting the Gek several times. For those of you who don't know, in Fallout 2, you're a descendant of the original Vault Dweller who set up the village of Arroyo in some part of California. You know, they're all descended from the Vault Dweller in Vault 13 after the quest for the water chip in Fallout 1. And basically the Vault Dwellers in Vault 13 were like, fuck you, you've changed as a person, the wasteland has changed you, so you're banished forever even though you saved our lives. Get lost. So he decided to set up his own village, right? And you're a descendant, you're called the Chosen One, and you're sent off to save your village because your village is dying. The crops are dying. The Brahmin are starving. The children look like they're already dead, basically. And
oh yeah, you know, and you've gone from being it's a 100-year like time skip there, and you've gone from being from the most advanced people in the wasteland to being, you know, a bunch of people who have an actual stone temple in the middle of California for some reason.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yes.
As much as people complain about that opening quest line, because it's supposed to be like a tutorial that marketing demanded, I've read, and it's not a great tutorial. It really isn't. But it's cool that they have it. It's a cool set piece, I think. The idea of it.
And also gives you more time with actually the people that you're supposed to be rescuing too.
Right. So they'll send you on quests and stuff. But the medicine man, I think is really cool. He's kind of like,
he contacts you in his dreams, and if you really do fuck around for way too long there, he'll be like dying on the side, clearly suffering from starvation and water, going like, "Why have you not brought us the Garden of Eden creation kit?"
Yeah, I'm not quite there yet, and I'm like several cities away from finally getting to the vault that has the Gek, I think. Because I'm trying to do this blind unless I get really stuck, because, you know, my time is limited to a certain extent.
I appreciate the way that Chris Avalon helped design it there. It really just does go clockwise. But getting back to Fallout the series, which we're supposed to be talking about. It's funny that my position on the subject is actually different from you, because I prefer the earlier episodes.
Really?
Yes. I think the first one is the best one of the episode there, especially because Lucy's wedding, I'm not for spoiling, because
Lucy's wedding is great.
Is Lucy's wedding, and the entirety of it is the whole Game of Thrones in one small thing there. You get the what ridiculous people the Vault Dwellers are, how screwed up their culture has become because of the isolationism, you know, because cousin stuff.
Right. Cousin stuff. Oh God.
Oh yes, and all of that, and that section is a perfect little episode right on its own there. But you also have Cooper, who is the ghoul, and his section at both the beginning and the end there, which also tells just how the apocalypse has affected him, and, you know, the genuinely touching scenes with him and his family and the pre-war world.
Right, yeah.
And then you have Maximus, which sucks.
So, Maximus, oh my God. Yeah, Maximus is weird. I think his portrayal, at least, he makes more sense later on, I feel. And I'm not saying that the content or the story in the first 3 episodes is bad. What I'm saying is that the shots, like, and this is just like my own sense for story pacing in film. I have never been a fan of the Nolan brothers past like Batman Begins, I think, as far as keeping scenes too long. Like, they seem to be, past Dark Knight, they seem to want to extend scenes past their natural ending point. And while with Fallout, I totally get that you want to show people walking, a lot of walking. That there is something, and I can't quite put my finger on it. Maybe people in the comments will have more of I guess an opinion on this, that when you're seeing these long shots of like ruined cars or something, there's something about the suspension of disbelief when you have really long shots of things like this. It just, something feels off about those first 3 episodes, and I can't quite put my finger on it. But I think it's that we spend too long on each shot. Like, the cinematography is good, but I think it's better in 4 and 5 so far. I'm not, and like I said, this is a me thing. This is my own gut reaction to it, and my wife felt similarly. She's not like a Fallout fan per se. She is starting to play Fallout 1, and she's played a little bit of New Vegas. But, you know, her not being a fan, her reaction is going to be very genuine, right? She's not going to come from it from a fanboy perspective where, wow, I see this reference, or wow, I see that reference. Wow, they did Rad Roaches right. Or, I mean, you know.
That's the biggest of mine. My wife only knows Fallout from occasionally looking over my shoulder there. And I did not believe a Fallout adaptation when it was first proposed was something that would be able to appeal to the layman, because it's such a weird concept. Because you already start with the premise of it's not just, you know, a post-apocalypse nuclear war. It's like it's a post-apocalypse nuclear war in a culture of America where the 50s never ended.
Yeah, and you know, I think people,
that's a pretty high concept.
It is high concept, but I think the way they sell it works, especially in like the games when you're seeing like the narrator coming out saying war never changes.
War never changes. The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
Right.
But I'm going to go say that, continuing on with why I like the opening couple of episodes there, the plot is very good, tightly written in the later episodes there. But I did like the first few episodes most because, again, we don't quite have the plot down pat there. Lucy and the other characters are just encountering these incredibly weird people in these bizarre situations. And it's like, why are there fingers in the mouth of that monster? That sort of thing.
Right. And yes, I guess I'll have to rewatch the series again to really feel like, to analyze why I felt that way. And like I said, you know,
your opinion is your opinion.
Right.
Glad you added this point there. But I will say, this is definitely a series that makes the argument that this could have easily been 10 or 12 episodes, while still keeping all of the strengths of it as it is. And you know, we've gotten to the point where we're doing the British brevity. And you know, there's 8 episodes in the season there, and you know that's great for the budgets because you know there's plenty of ways of shooting the money on the screen, but it's also something that you could definitely tell that the producers got cold feet on this situation. That's why Amazon released it all at once. And, you know, now they're kicking themselves, I'm sure, for that, because it was at one point, I think, for at least a couple of days, the most watched streaming show in the world.
Yeah. I think it's still pretty up there, too. It's already been greenlit for season 2. We're going to see New Vegas, I hear. But, again, no spoilers for the last 5 episodes or so.
This is definitely one of those things where, you know, it's good to go in this unspoiled.
Right. Go in without any without any expectations.
Yes, you know, because there's a lot of similarities to the previous games there, but that's where the show is tricking you, because when they have Lucy go out from their vault and so on there, you expect it to go in the way similar to the games, and then it zigs instead of zags. And that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And I apologize to the audience. I am getting over like a cough, and I have really bad allergies right now. But so if I cough every once in a while, I'm not trying to destroy your ears. I promise. Yes, hopefully,
you know, I love Lucy and Cooper, and I'm
gonna say same.
Maximus's problem is, I think they're trying to sell us on believing something about Maximus that is not true as part of his character development. But fact, and because, you know, we're made to think he's doing something for X, Y reason, and, you know, he's actually doing it for Z.
Yeah, Maximus is strange.
Just confused about what kind of person he is.
Right. And in the comments, if you guys can, write down your favorite character. Tell us why your favorite character is X, Y, or Z. You know, because there are 4 viewpoint characters throughout the series, but we're really focused, at least in this podcast episode, to be talking about 3 of them. Obviously, you know, Fallout's been really well received. People love it so far. Great effects too. Like I couldn't tell in the first 3 episodes whether or not the power armor was practical or CGI, and I think it's a good mix of both. And I found out later that yeah, they're practical. They're practical suits. And I was like, that's so cool. They built these freaking T-60 power armor sets, and I'm like, I was nerding out about that a little bit after I got past the is it CGI or is it practical part, because like I feel like the way it was shot in the first 3 episodes, you couldn't really tell. That's both good and bad.
This is a smart movie. There's part of the issue is everyone keeps saying, you know, CGI is such a great time saver and financially viable, but you know, in the long term, that's not the case there.
Right.
Obviously, you can use these suits again.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, practical effects are usually more cost effective, especially if you know have someone that knows what they're doing. You know. Yeah. I was watching an Adam Savage thing, and something like clicked when he was talking about anytime you make a prop for film, you have to over detail it. And they did just the right amount of detailing on these things, where I'd love to see like the in-person props for the T-60 to see, you know, because you lose a lot of detail on camera when you do that.
Oh yes, I mean that's definitely the case, and there are a lot of things that they have made these practical effects. You know, the 1950s cars, all these things that are not just in for the post-apocalypse world, but the previous world too. And that's just fantastic.
Yeah, it's really it's they've done an excellent job. Like in episode 4, when they reached that ruined shopping mart, I was like getting flashbacks to Fallout 3. And I just the Mr. Handy robots have always been one of my favorite things in the whole series. They are so funny.
Fantastic choice with getting Matt Berry from What We Do in the Shadows to doing the Mr. Handies, because that was perfect voicing for the kind of goofy yet menacing thing.
I hard agree. It almost sounded like they got the same voice actor to reprise it from New Vegas and 3, but I know that's not the case. I'm also very appreciative that the ghouls don't sound like they're talking like this, smooth skin, all the time, because that got...
Yeah, I admit that that was something that was a joke, and a bit of world building that never quite worked.
Right. The smooth skin thing works, but like having them all talk like they're about to lose their voice box to throat cancer wasn't quite working in the games.
No. They dialed it down there, but you know, it's interesting enough. Quite a few people didn't even realize that the ghoul and the cowboy were the same person. I'm like, how do you not recognize Walter Goggins' voice? It's so recognizable.
Or his face, even under the makeup and the CGI that they do to remove his nose. Like, it's very obvious. Mm-hmm. Man, I don't know what's wrong with people, but I hope they're okay. As far as not realizing shit like that is super obvious.
I mean, are we going to do a spoiler section for discussing things later in the podcast, or is this going to be just a general
overview? For the first 5 episodes, because I don't want the last few episodes spoiled for me, at least. I hope you're okay with that, but I do. Right. So far, my favorite episode has been 4. I love the stuff with I'm going to harvest your organs. I love the Mr. Handy. All of the jokes with him landed. I wanted that Mr. Handy to be her new companion. I would watch a show just with Lucy and the Mr. Handy. That would be awesome.
Yes, I really think they could have redone this entirely from Lucy's perspective, and they'd be like the companion scenes, like whereas like, you know, she manages to get Maximus and and Cooper and the Mr. Handy and Dog Meat, and she can only travel with one at a time.
Right, right. Her charisma's too low or something. However, it worked in Fallout 2.
There's a great thing on Reddit where they did the speech checks and they did like 15 of Lucy trying to persuade people of things and failing.
Yeah. There was this discussion on Facebook that I saw where people are trying to figure out what everyone's character level was at the end of the show. And the common thing was the ghoul was level 100 because he was on New Game Plus or whatever.
Yes, he's just clawing his way there. His point there. So, yeah, I think we got despite only being 8 instead of the 200 hours I played on it.
Right.
I'm going to say it was a really good version of the kind of main quest that you would get in a Fallout 5 game, and it's exactly the kind of plot they would. It manages to truly capture the feel of the video game from the perspective of a player, and I'm glad we could share that with so much of a larger audience, because so many non-gamers and non-Fallout people are watching this, and it's broken the niche, and they understand exactly. They follow the experience. It's as close to being role-playing by putting yourself in that perspective without actually being in a video game.
Right. And I think what works about this so far, from what I've seen, is that they're not adapting this because they're fans. Of course, some of the writers are fans. They're doing this because they have a passion for the project. It's like what we were talking about during our writing sprints today about why do you write in public domain Cthulhu stories, right? It's not because, or at least it shouldn't be because you want to capture that fan base, right? Of course, that's going to be a motivator, right? But
yeah, I mean, I have nothing good to say about Jeff Bezos except this one thing. There is like, if I believe that there was a billionaire who would create a vanity project of a video game he liked, this does strike me as something that could have happened exactly that way.
Right. But
because this is definitely the game. This was not made purely for profit, but from people who love the materials. But because they did, it will make a huge profit there, and we can now finally get the kind of merchandising I think Fallout deserves. Not these terrible canvas bags or crappy wallets there.
Oh God, don't even remind me about the canvas bags. Audience members, for those of you who don't know, when Fallout 4 first came out, there was a legendary edition that came with like a Pip-Boy and a canvas bag. $200 fucking dollars. I never bought it, thankfully.
For that video game, yes. I want to let you know what they were paying for. For $200 in a collector's edition, I expect there to be not only the season pass but the second game.
Yeah, but the canvas bag was a notorious issue because Bethesda promised this thing and the quality was so bad that they had to Charles, can you refresh my memory on this? And my editor, Octal, please put this up on screen too while we're talking about it.
The Fallout Collector's Edition was promised there would be a canvas bag there, and because it's a post-apocalypse, they were showing this kind of an army canvas bag.
Oh my God!
Yes. And what you got was a tiny freaking tote bag that fell apart in like a couple of days.
I remember Moist Critical talking about this before I knew who Moist Critical was back then. Just roasting this product.
To be credit to the level, but if you're going to, with the previous game, you got a Brotherhood of Steel helmet. You could actually wear that helmet. You could get the Pip-Boy. You could actually wear it. It's like, it's plastic. It's a toy. We get it there. But a canvas bag, you expect to actually be able to hold things.
Yeah.
No way. And I actually got blocked by Bethesda's account on Twitter because I made the joke about it when they were showing a screenshot of Maximus forcing his new squire to carry a massive bag full of stuff. You know what I wrote?
What?
Well, he has to get some use out of that $200 canvas bag.
Nice.
And they blocked me for it.
Oh, I mean, how could you not bring that up, though? Man, I totally forgot about that. Totally. But back to my point, what I was trying to make about adaptations is that, you have to be passionate about it and not to subvert expectations just to subvert them, like we saw with, the Ghostbusters 2016 reboot. it's
Uh-huh.
it's you have to come at it from an angle.
I have my own comments on the Ghostbusters reboot there,
Right?
and it's the kind of thing that I think more people should just accept. Not just because I say it, and of course I'm automatically right there, but in very simple terms, it wasn't that it was about women. It was that it wasn't funny or scary, and Ghostbusters has to be both.
Yeah, and it's like it's weird because that movie is such a classic.
They had the actresses; they could have pulled it off there, as I said. But
they are phenomenal. Like I love Kate McKinnon. She cracks me up in everything she's in. If you
wanted someone to play Harold Ramis's Egon role and the equivalent there, yes, I would definitely satisfy their man or woman.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
There, they treated it as silly, and the thing, and Ghostbusters is silly in the context of only that it's a serious situation being done by people who have no business handling it.
Right. And it's a blue collar type thing. It's a it's a comedy movie dealing with people starting a business for this wacky thing. That's what makes it funny.
Yes, and there's and you, whether you're left or right, there's the satire also hits there, because under no circumstances should the end of the world be handled by exterminators.
Right. And I don't know. I guess Paul Feig, even though Paul Feig did like The Office, right? He did The Office. You would think that he would have been the perfect person to tackle that, but I think they were approaching it from the wrong perspective. There was like, oh, people are going to be so surprised and upset about this. Like, you're trying to subvert people's expectations, but you're doing it in the wrong way. What you want to do, is to approach it from a way is like, man, I love Cthulhu. But I wouldn't write a novel about Cthulhu unless I had a really good idea how to reinvent Cthulhu without reinventing him, right?
There's a very funny story about the Ghostbusters and Cthulhu. Do you know that there was an episode called The Collect Hall of Yes, written and by J. Michael Straczynski of Babylon 5.
Yeah, I've seen that episode. It's been a while, but I have seen that episode.
Yes, just like you could totally just do. That's the thing there. If you want to write Cthulhu, you could actually look at the original Ghostbusters, and you have a basic idea about how it works.
Yeah.
Explain it to you.
Yeah, really. The original Ghostbusters, Gozer is a very cosmic horror style entity. It's
a cult. It's being summoned into this world. It's going to destroy everything. Things are getting utterly weird there, and there's a very good argument that Egon probably went to Miskatonic University.
Probably, yeah. But like, I think what works in a lot of these newer adaptations that are pleasing fans is not that they're getting the most Easter eggs. Like the newest Ghostbusters film, Frozen Empire, I was not the biggest fan.
I'm gonna say, I say they went a little too far in the other direction there. I'm going to say that Afterlife was a better movie than
it was. It was absolutely.
Yes. It was coherent. It understood that it can be scary and funny there, but on the other hand, it was a little too much into the let us worship at the altar of the previous movies.
A little bit, but rewatching that movie, I got the sense
Empires like that times 10.
Right, but it's also like none of the characters have any substance in Frozen Empire. I feel like, but the characters in the original Ghostbusters do. The whole thing works because of the chemistry of the characters and the actors portraying them. They really should have leaned into McKenna Grace's natural chemistry. Her like, I loved in Afterlife her dumb jokes, and like this was not supposed to be about Frozen Empire, but I guess we're talking about it.
There's a general point there. There's only so much that four incredibly talented actors can do with a bad script, and that was the jokes were stupid.
Right. I laughed twice, and it was a chuckle.
Yes, and it's like, and the comedy was incredibly dumbed down for what has to be a very smart premise with it because of its absurdity.
Right.
We're talking way too much about Ghostbusters and Stealth Fallout, so we should.
Yeah, but the underlying point is that when you have a director that has a passion for it, and I guess this reflects back on Jason Reitman too, and the people behind Fallout, is that they're not trying to give you exactly what you want. They are
Well,
trying to give you what you didn't know that you needed. You know.
Yes. It's a very interesting case there because Fallout is a game that has a very polarized fan base. I don't know how much of the Fallout base you know of there, but
Oh, I'm pretty familiar.
oh yes, it was, it doesn't get into the full level of the toxic craziness that Star Wars fandom can get to. But there's some genuine hatred among the various factions here, and it's extra funny because Fallout is a game that has a history of being handed over like a football. Because Tim Kaine made the original Fallout, it was his baby because he lost the rights to Wasteland, and he handed it over to Chris Avellone, who made Fallout 2 almost entirely on his own and just made it a point. And then it got bought by Todd Howard and Bethesda, who didn't realize that there was already a third game almost completed. That's its own story.
Yeah.
And the director came to Todd Howard and asked if he could do it there. And Todd Howard said to the effect of, like, we weren't going to turn down that kind of money, which, the only moment of Todd Howard honesty I've ever known of.
Right.
But he said the guy talked for 40 minutes about his character, and I was like, okay, this guy's clearly sold me.
Yeah. The story that I know is that Black Isle did New Vegas, and they were involved with the first two Fallouts and Tactics. I've not played Tactics at all. Just you're forewarned.
I have watched Tactics, and I'm glad I didn't play it.
Yeah, it seemed a little tedious, but the general consensus with Fallout fans, hardcore Fallout fans, and I kind of agree with this sentiment, is that the role-playing elements in the story and characters are better in Fallout 1, 2, and New Vegas. But Fallout 3 is not as good as far as your role-playing options. And Fallout 4 is more dumbed down there. I still love Fallout 3. I agree with a lot of the points that, say, H-Bomber Guy makes about why New Vegas is better. And I do think New Vegas is better. I love New Vegas, trust me.
Fans, but
I
told you that again. Fallout has been, but generally speaking, there are people that swear up and down that only Fallout 1 should count. People who love Fallout 1 and 2 but hate 3, and people who love Fallout 1, 2, and Fallout New Vegas but think that 3 is a blasphemy, and 4 is just repeat that times 2. But here's the thing. I think all of the main line games are pretty darn good there, and they are all building on one another. Mm-hmm. And people just refuse to acknowledge that there. People are talking about how New Vegas is so much better than Fallout 3, and I'm like, yes, it is, but that's because they created the framework from that was built on Oblivion, and they added guns and set the post-apocalypse. But New Vegas couldn't exist without the gameplay and the assets and all the material that had been pre-established.
Yeah, totally agree. Here's the thing. And you can criticize Fallout 3. You can do that. That's totally fine. I love criticism. I love getting into it. It's all good fun. However, I will always remember the time that I went to Tenpenny Tower and was given the choice to nuke what is it? What was the town? The town Megaton to set off the nuke that they were all worshiping in town, or to spare the village. I remember that choice. I remember pressing to nuke it just to see it happen. That is a crazy choice. Like, they did some awesome things in Fallout 3.
Oh, yeah.
You have to admit that. Like, yeah, the roleplay is deeper, much deeper in New Vegas, but it's built off of Fallout 3 and what they were trying to do with it. So I'll still play through Fallout 3. I love Fallout 3. I love New Vegas. I have all
sorts of defenses for the thing about Fallout 3 there. I would like to bring up that people don't bring up because they're trying to win the argument rather than having a serious conversation.
Right,
Well,
right.
that's the thing. Fallout 3's plot gets so much criticism, but it's a retelling of 1 and 2, basically.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's a little dumbed down there, but you leave your vault because of being banished. And people don't even realize just how much of a retelling it is there, because in Fallout 1 it's a water chip, in 2 it's to build a giant water purifier. Sorry, 3.
In my case, it's because I murdered everyone in the vault.
Well, they had it coming. They were trying to kill you, and it's still self-defense until you kill your 200th person. That's a line.
I'm pretty sure in my first playthrough of Fallout 3, I killed more than 200 people.
Yeah,
I bordered on genocidal maniac.
I think that qualifies when you nuke a town just to create someone's view.
I mean, there weren't that many people in that town. Let's be honest.
I know, but it's still a mass murder on a proportionally, it's a lot larger town. If you count the.
Yeah.
Okay, but what I'm trying to say is, like, it's a retelling of that. There are a lot of issues. Obviously, there's no faction system like New Vegas there, and they're reusing a bunch of assets on the West Coast that have no business being on the East Coast. But they're doing that because they're trying to reintroduce Fallout to a new audience that has never played the original.
Right.
I mean, I take that in the case, and it's also, a very. I think that Fallout New Vegas has fantastic atmosphere, but I'm going to even say Fallout 3's atmosphere is more, because again, it actually feels like awful that there was a nuclear apocalypse.
Well, I mean, and I get why you say that. A friend of mine named Brian, he prefers Fallout 3 to New Vegas because he doesn't feel like the Mojave Wasteland feels like it's post-apocalyptic, like it's after he misses the green-brown hue to everything. However,
yeah,
if you're 200 years, 300 years after the bombs, that's it's not going to look like Fallout 3.
Yeah, the time in Fallout is nonsense.
Yeah,
let's be honest. All of them is complete nonsense, and the only reason it is because they wanted to make a sequel, not a prequel to the Fallout 1 and 2, and of course Fallout 2 is set 100 years later.
Yeah, maybe they should have set it before Fallout 1.
Yeah, that's what they did with Fallout 76 there. But people wanted to be like, oh, what happens next in the story with the Brotherhood of the Steel and the Enclave and so on, and and it's complete nonsense. It should be set 30 or maybe 60 years after it there, but no further. If there's supposed to be anything, there's not going to be bodies still left on the floor. It's one of those things you just have to accept there, and we accept it even in Fallout the series. Which is
I had that thought too when she was leaving the vault. Like, if it's 200, 300 years after the bombs fell, there wouldn't be, these Pompeii-like things unless they were unless you excavated them from a archaeological site.
I mean, that her vault is literally on Santa Monica Pier, and I'm like, I think someone would have used, even with a radiation, would have made use of that real estate by now.
Right. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of suspension of disbelief when it comes to Fallout. I mean, it's a tongue-in-cheek series anyway. It is a comedy.
Yes, there's, God forbid, a geek takes something a little too seriously.
Right.
I'm willing to suspend my disbelief, and on this case there, that if for whatever reason the apocalypse is stretched on for 300 years.
Yeah, but we're getting up to 40 minutes here.
Leftover lamps and shit still haven't been claimed.
Right. There's still loot to be had, and still skeletons. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. That is something that I found interesting, and I kind of had to stop myself from commenting on while I was watching. When Lucy stumbles upon those skeletons in that blown out house, like, the skeletons actually, that's not totally unrealistic, because as we see in the Chernobyl exclusion zone, things don't decay like they're supposed to, which is really weird, right? So some of this stuff is actually pretty realistic because animals behave differently. Dead things do not decay the way they're supposed to in high radiation areas.
Oh yeah,
because it interrupts the
there's-
natural processes and whatnot. It's really interesting.
Oh, yeah. You know, it's very funny there. I also wrote a essay for my blog that sadly got deleted a long time ago there. But what you would love there, because it was the idea of Fallout setting as hell.
Right. Purgatory.
Yes, it's like that's the reason why everything remains eternally frozen is God's mind. Or whatever.
And really, God is just an analog for the player.
Yeah, well, no.
Or the devs.
Designers there.
Right.
Yes. Yes, you have the purpose of, like, can you guide this soul to redemption or further damnation?
Right.
Okay, but yeah, you know, I mean, I'm not going to spoil anything there, but you will note as you get further that they're definitely setting up a visit to New Vegas for season 2, and I wouldn't be surprised if this makes it to season 3, and I have no doubt it will. They'll visit the Commonwealth or East Coast.
Yeah, probably. I wouldn't. I was a little surprised it was set in California for this one, just because Bethesda has really steered clear of the West Coast in their games. Like, they wanted to keep their stuff on the East Coast just because they didn't want to screw anything up, like, lore-wise on the West Coast. Uh-huh. And there are some fans saying that this series being canonized suddenly decanonizes everything in New Vegas, but like
we need to go take a moment to pause at this point, because this is one of those internet hoaxes that actually caused a lot of pain and suffering for a lot of people because they harassed developers and so on there. And the short explanation for our audience there, during an episode, and this is not a spoiler there, they have a chalkboard that lists recent history after the apocalypse, even though that's like 200 years. It's not recent at all, but one of them lists the destruction of a major city in Fallout and the resulting collapse of a faction as happening before New Vegas, which obviously is not going to happen if they're a faction in New Vegas. But what should happen, and people immediately said, like, this is Bethesda erasing New Vegas from canon as part of their evil plan to go against. Yeah. And I'm like, Bethesda gets paid every time someone buys New Vegas.
Yeah, and like the thing what I found interesting is that in episode 5, where Lucy is talking to Maximus about, okay, catch me up on what happened. He says the bombs fell when I was a kid. From his perspective, that's right. But she's like, is that what they told you? LOL. Troll face.
Obviously, the primitive tribals on the surface cannot have a proper education like us.
Right, and it's calling into question what we think of as the true date and like actual march of time, because as we've seen, the computers have logic errors a lot. Like maybe this series is not taking place in the year that they think it is.
Well, in fact, actually, it turns out that there was an explanation that the developers did share, and it was kind of made everyone feel kind of a little silly, except for the people that believed in the first place, and it was like, that's just it. Yeah. Well, you see, the chalkboard that lists the thing was saying the fall of said faction. Can I just say the name of the faction?
Yeah, you can say that.
Yeah, it's NCR. NCR has fallen. Olympus, they nuked Shady Sands, and it's not like NCR is wiped out to the man there. We need a bunch of NCR remnants and communities that still identify it as it. At one point, Cooper meets a guy who declares himself the president because he's the ruler of a local town.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, it's like the boss hog is now president of NCR, except it's just his version of it. But yeah, going on there, on the chalkboard it says the fall of NCR, but then the chalkboard continues on to the nuke. So it's not happening in 2077. 2277 is when things start going bad for NCR.
Right, with Kaiser's Legion and whatnot too.
Yeah, and all that there, and and they don't know why X events led to someone nuking it, and when the nuke happens, that happens according to Twitter, and they should have written it down because fans are anal retentive about these things. They're like,
Right.
all geeks are Trekkies at heart. They care
Right.
about the stupidest shit.
Actually, the Cardassians didn't do this in X year.
Yeah, it's like when they asked James Doohan, how does the Heisenberg compensator work? You know, the magical thing that makes
Right.
it possible. Yeah, and he says, like, it works very well. Yeah, but going on with that point there, yeah, I think the official date offline has been said to be 2882, which is, again, the year after New Vegas happens. All of it's canon, obviously. I mean, there was plenty of nods to New Vegas canon even before then, but they just ignored that because it didn't fit their
agenda, you know.
Yes. Their agenda of Bethesda is the devil.
And I definitely think that Bethesda has made mistakes, and they do make, you know, they do dumb shit sometimes. I think they still want to make good games, but I think their heads up their ass in some areas. That's totally valid.
Yeah, they've made some definite mistakes with Fallout there, and they've screwed up. And you know, Fallout 76 would never should have been released the way it was there, but now it's a good game. I've played it for like 100 hours.
I bought it because it was like $7, and I'll give it a whirl. Maybe we can play together. I don't know.
Here's the thing: if you belong to Amazon Prime, you can actually get a free copy of Fallout 4 and Fallout New Vegas. Sorry, Fallout 4 and 76.
Well, I went on Steam and I bought them all.
Yes, and you know, it's done, and this has done wonders for the game's visibility.
Right,
because now more people are playing Fallout 76 than have ever played before.
Yeah, Fallout's always been kind of a niche thing for people, and you know, I got into the games with Fallout 1. I got the lunchbox. I still own my lunchbox somewhere. I don't know where it is. Oh wait, no, it's not over there. But you know, Fallout 3 was a big deal when it came out. It was huge, but it was still really niche. Compared to like Skyrim, Fallout is like Skyrim's up here. Fallout's
never reached the level of consoles, and consoles have never reached the level of television.
Yeah. So, you know, I think more people should play the originals, but you know, maybe Bethesda should think about doing an updated version of the first two games with all the storylines and everything intact to get more people to experience it.
It's kind of ridiculous. They didn't have a Fallout 5 to release with this series, like in a month or two.
A little bit, yeah, seriously, because Fallout 76 is like, really old. I've never actually played it. I saw the bad reviews, and I was like, fuck that.
Fallout 4 is great, and I'm glad more people are playing that. There's this, my opinion of that is that is a game I think of as it plays fine, but the storyline that Fallout 3, complain about the story all you want there as a retelling there, but it's not as aggressively mediocre as Fallout 4's.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I never finished Fallout 4. Never finished it. I got pretty far. I had a collection of power armor sets, kind of like Iron Man, in a garage. And then but the story, once my excitement for Fallout 4 ran its course, I was like, meh, I'll move on to something else. So maybe now that I have it on Steam, I still own it on PS4, but maybe now that I have it on Steam, I'll see if I can get to the end of the story without getting bored.
I mean, it's okay, but it's not. It's the story with, you know, somehow they made combining Blade Runner and Fallout boring.
Yeah, and like on paper that sounds really fucking exciting too. Like how can you fuck that up?
Cyberpunk, post-apocalypse, me. If you added Cthulhu, it would still somehow, and yet you did not make it awesome.
There's a Nyarlathotep reference in Fallout 2.
Oh yeah,
I was like,
Fallout 3, they have the Dunwich building, which is full of ghouls and and has a bunch of weird artifacts, and you can eventually try and point lookout. You can find the Necronomicon.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look for that in my next Fallout 3 playthrough, whenever that is. I gotta look up all the mods again because I had all the I love the grenade hotkey mod. The first-person shooter mods basically are excellent for New Vegas and 3.
I mean, Fallout 4 is one of the games, like, I can't complain about it too much. The story is not the point for so many people there. people. It's the most moddable, customizable version for both console and it plays fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you have to make your own fun there. That's
I mean, that is part of the fun with these older games too, because studios are getting a lot more hands-on, and they're not letting people. They're not as friendly to the mod scene as they used to be, which sucks. It really does suck. But bottom line is, this is like becoming. I won't say a golden age for adaptations, because we definitely still have a lot of misses, but people are starting to figure out, like, and I was talking about this before with another friend, that if you've ever seen RoboCop, there is an excellent documentary on RoboCop. It's like 4 hours long on Amazon right now.
Oh yes,
done by Bloody Disgusting, I believe. Yeah, it's great. But when RoboCop was being made, nothing like RoboCop had ever been made before. RoboCop is a B movie title. Like, just forget about your nostalgia tinted glasses. Back then, it was a B movie title. And this was when studios were figuring out that you can take these B movie concepts and turn them into something really like a blockbuster. Terminator, B movie concept right there. It is a miracle.
That's even a concept there with Superman in 1979.
Right.
Yes, it's just like people don't for whatever reason, studios have this weird aversion to the idea that silly sci-fi and geek shit was hugely popular even then.
Yeah,
and always has.
It has.
Radio show was one of the most listened to things on the entirety of the country. They keep having to learn the lesson over and over again.
It's because they know that it's because they know that they're never going to be up for awards the way that, Citizen Kane or something, Children of Men will be, you know, something like that.
I do want to take a brief break.
Sure.
If you want to hear about a great, it's not a documentary, but Fallout: A Tale of Mutation is a nonfiction book detailing the creation of all the Fallout games.
Oh, nice. I'll have to check that out.
It's on Kindle Unlimited too.
Nice. Yeah. Cool.
Yes, it's really great. I enjoyed reading it. Hearing about all the behind-the-scenes things there, and how essentially, in addition to being just because he couldn't do Wasteland, Fallout came to be there. The game was basically made in Tim Kane's break room just by promising all the writers a pizza.
Nice,
and,
nice.
And all the actors for Fallout 1, which included some pretty good ones, Richard Mole, Bull, Richard Dean Anderson, and David Warner, Ra's al Ghul himself. All of these people did their voice acting for the lowest union-mandated payment they could take.
Oh shit! Dave Warner from BTAS.
Yeah. Again, John Irenicus himself from Baldur's Gate.
Right. What I meant, probably Batman the Animated Series. He was Ra's al Ghul. Iconic voice, really.
Yes, and he was the villain's sidekick.
How? That voice? The sidekick? Yeah,
nah. Well, he was like, the slimy little finger, like head of the fake church.
Right.
And the master, you couldn't do the master's voice because the master is this disgusting abomination who speaks with 3 different voices.
Right.
And one of them is a computer, yeah.
Now I'm remembering. Man, I didn't know that Dave Warner was in Fallout. Like that's wild.
Yeah, unless you've played it recently,
it's been years.
Unless you've played it after you've encountered David Warner in his iconic roles there, you'll immediately recognize his voice and wonder why he's being snidely Whiplash, kind of, the cult leader.
Right. All right.
Yeah, but here's the thing: all of these, great actors did it just because they thought it would be fun, and it was.
Yeah, absolutely. But like getting back to like RoboCop, why it worked? Like studios back then didn't know you could treat this stuff. You could do that kind of movie, a black comedy basically with a sci-fi B movie concept. And Fallout, I feel, is very similar in terms of its tone. It's very much a black comedy, There's
that part of the thing that the series got right, that Tim Kaine talks about a lot in that book I just mentioned. That you don't automatically think about is how violent to the point of absurdity all of the games are.
Yeah, yeah. I always pick the bloody mess perk for that reason. It's
Oh yes, and because it was kind of hilarious hearing Tim Kaine. You think about all the storytelling and the world building and so on there. But like all of the things he says is like we need to somehow make this game that where the sprites are like this big, more violent, more exploding.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's still fun even with a turn-based system in Fallout 2 to explode people's heads and stuff with the machine gun. But yeah, man. Bottom line is Fallout the series is worth your time. Check it out. And let us know what you think in the comments. Charles, thank you so much for joining me for this episode. And I'm gonna have Charles back. We're gonna talk about next time. We're gonna talk about Pulp Cthulhu and Cosmic Horror, the differences, how they overlap, and why people shouldn't be so upset to have a little bit of action in their Cosmic Horror. That's going to be a really fun discussion, so you should be there for that. Charles, where can people find your stuff? Go ahead, plug your stuff again.
Yes. Well, just look me up on CT Phipps on Amazon or Audible, and you'll see a bunch of books pop up there. I have my own fan club on Facebook called the CT Phipps Fan Club there. I have a website called the United Federation of Charles that I do a lot of reviews. And I also work on the Before You Go blog and Grimdark Magazine.
Yeah, yeah. We love Grimdark Magazine.
Yeah,
all right.
But if you need recommendations for me at this point, I do Cthulhu Armageddon, the Books of Cthulhu, The Rules of Supervillainy, and Space Academy Dropouts.
I'm a big fan of Cthulhu Armageddon, and his cyberpunk works really good too. So check that stuff out. Charles is hilarious. So Charles, I look forward when you're able to come back. Let's set that up soon, and I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the outro. So Charles and I would like to thank you for sitting through this entire nerdy discussion as we discussed Fallout. Hopefully we didn't spoil anything too big. And next time, we want to see you back here. I'm your host, Eric Malachite, your resident cosmic horror madman, and I'll see you next time, Space Cowboy. Finger guns.